The government is aiming to nurture South Korea's eastern province of Gangwon-do as a hub for high-technology innovation and tourism, as the region is set to obtain its new status as a special self-governing province. President Yoon vowed to bolster infrastructure and allow more leeway for deregulation. The nation's current account was again in the red in April, affected by greater outbound travel and more dividend payments for foreign investors. And just ahead of the 10th anniversary of BTS Journey, we take a look at what's the driving force behind their global success. It's June 9th, 2023. This is News Center. Good evening. Thank you for joining us. I'm Yoon Jung-min. We start with the nation's efforts seeking balanced regional growth. Just 2 days before the province gains a special self-governing status, President Yoon Suk-yeol has pledged to turn the eastern province of Gangwon-do into a high-tech and tourist hub. Our Oh Soo-young tells us what this will involve.
South Korea's eastern province of Gangwon-do is set to become a high-tech powerhouse and tourist hub for the nation, as it sheds the red tape that had been holding it back. President Yoon Suk-yeol attended a ceremony on Friday to mark the launch of the province's special self-governing status, which will go into effect on Sunday. As Gangwon-do launches itself as Gangwon State, the province hopes to utilize land that was restricted and heavily regulated by central government ministries under laws related to military districts, forestry, environment and agriculture. According to the local provincial government, over 21,000 square kilometers has been under red tape, stalling opportunities to improve the quality of life and development in the region, altogether amounting to some 62.8 trillion won or $48.6 billion in estimated losses.
It was difficult to develop the area as there were so many separate regulations applied on different zones, which needed to be processed by different bodies. But its new status will help Gangwon fast-track regulatory procedures and gain freedom to develop its niche areas.
By gaining self-governing powers and easing regulations, Gangwon state authorities would have greater flexibility to speedily build residential areas, factories, tourist attractions, transport links and other infrastructure. Also, the province is expected to gain various advantages like Daegu and Sejong City, such as a separate account for funding and greater autonomy in setting up policies on foreign investment, tourism and education. As part of his drive for balanced regional development, Yoon said he aims to empower Gangwon province and its residents to leverage their natural environment and abundant resources.
지역 스스로 경쟁력 있는 산업을 정해서 중앙정부가 지원하는 균형 발전 전략을 실현해 나갈 것입니다.
The president also pledged to promote the growth of high-tech industries in the province, noting that the city of Taebaek has been designated as a special zone for biomass-based hydrogen production. He further called for efforts to build an e-mobility industry and boost tourism, promising to quickly initiate a high-speed railway project to connect cities across Gangwon. With its vision to become a future industrial global city, Gangwon State will also aim to serve as a model of decentralization, as Jeollabuk-do in January will become the fourth self-governing region in the country. Oh Soo-young, Arirang News.
Findings for April show Korea's current account losing ground to post a monthly deficit, just after gaining some ground back in March. Pundits are linking the preliminary data to greater travel overseas and more dividend payments to foreign investors. Or Moon Hye-ryun has more.
South Korea's current account swung back into the red in April on the back of heightened outbound travel and increased dividend payments to foreign investors. Preliminary data released by the Bank of Korea on Friday show that the country's current account recorded a deficit of $790 million in April. This follows a surplus in March, which was the first since December. However, the goods account recorded a surplus of $580 million in April for the first time in 7 months despite sluggish exports.
We were able to confirm that the goods and services balance, which shows the key trend in the current account balance, has shown improvement since January, and that this trend continued in April.
The goods account logged a deficit of around $1 billion in February and March and over $7 billion in January. The total value of exports fell on year by nearly 17%, marking 8 months of consecutive decline. Semiconductor exports saw more than a 40% decline on the back of the global economic slowdown, and exports in other major sectors such as electronic goods also saw significant on-year declines. Only auto, ship and machinery exports rose in April, with auto exports jumping by more than 40% amid rising popularity of eco-friendly cars. The service account, which includes earnings and spending on overseas trips and transport, recorded a $1.2 billion deficit. This is nearly $1.6 billion less than April last year, when the service account logged a surplus of $380 million. Increased outbound travel as a result of eased COVID-19 restrictions led to a continued deficit in the travel account of around $500 million, contributing to the service account deficit. The primary income account, responsible for monitoring foreign workers' wages and overseas dividend payments, experienced a deficit of $90 million in April due to an increase in dividend payments to foreign investors. 문혜련, Arirang News.
The Chambers of Commerce of South Korea and Japan are to work together to help with their respective expo ambitions. For South Korea, that means winning the bid to host the 2030 World Expo. For Japan, the successful hosting of the 2025 Kansai Expo in Osaka. The two chambers released a joint statement on Friday following a bilateral business meeting in Busan, the first between the two countries in 6 years. They agreed to promptly roll out economic cooperation and exchange programs, especially in terms of resolving demographic challenges, reconstructing the supply chain, and achieving net zero. The next bilateral business chamber meeting is scheduled to be held next year in Osaka, Japan. South Korea's foreign ministry called in the Chinese ambassador to Seoul this morning to lodge a complaint over his criticism of the Yoon administration's foreign policy. This comes a day after Ambassador Shin Hai-ming said it was wrong for Seoul to, quote, bet on China's loss and a U.S. victory during a meeting with South Korea's opposition party leader Lee Jae-myung on Thursday. Seoul's foreign ministry said the first vice foreign minister Chang Ho-jin warned the top Chinese envoy that such remarks were absurd. Separately, Foreign Minister Park Jin also strongly criticized Shin's remarks, saying on Friday that the ambassador went too far. On the local front, Korea's National Election Commission, recently mired in a nepotism scandal, has been holding a meeting and discussing since early this afternoon and decided to accept an audit by the nation's Board of Audit and Inspection. For more, we have our political correspondent Lee Si-hoo on the line. Si-hoo, just walk us through what's the latest.
Jung-min, the National Election Commission, currently under allegations of employment favoritism towards the children of several senior NEC officials, has decided to accept an audit by South Korea's Board of Audit and Inspection. This was decided at a meeting not long ago of the NEC officials at the agency's headquarters in the city of Gwacheon. The officials also earlier replaced the Deputy Secretary General. The previous holder of the position stepped down due to nepotism allegations. From what's been reported thus far, some children of NEC officials were notified of new hiring announcements over 2 weeks prior to their official announcement. Reference checks, which should be conducted by the HR department, were instead conducted by the General Affairs Department. In some cases, the parents directly called the HR director and recommended their children for positions. There are also nepotism allegations in the promotion process of those hired.
Now, the NEC had rejected the Board of Audit and Inspection's earlier request for information. How else have political circles reacted to this?
Yes, Jung-min, although they accepted the audit earlier, the Board of Audit and Inspection late last month notified the NEC of the beginning of the audit process and asked for necessary information. The NEC saying that it is a violation of rightful independence as a constitutional institution rejected the investigation prior to this. Such a move was opposed by the People Power Party, which pressed the NEC to accept the audit. That is, after the ruling and opposition parties agreed on a parliamentary probe into the NEC on Thursday. The Democratic Party of Korea, on the other hand, said that a parliamentary probe should take place instead and that the Board of Audit and Inspection is pressing an unlawful audit worthy of investigation.
In consideration of the righteous indignation of the citizens, we urge the NEC to completely accept the audit by the Board of Audit and Inspection before the parliamentary probe.
We will push for a parliamentary probe into the Board of Audit and Inspection. The board that has been conducting political audits sans independence and neutrality for the past year should be investigated.
Meanwhile, Anti-Corruption and Civil Rights Commission announced Friday that it will soon begin a 38-day investigation into the scandal. Now that's all I have for now, but I'll be back with more updates in a later newscast.
That was our Lee Si-hu reporting live from the National Assembly. Moving on to the situation in Ukraine, major attacks by Ukrainian forces continue in the key southern Zaporizhzhia region. A senior U.S. official told the New York Times that Ukrainian troops began to advance in Zaporizhzhia on Thursday, backed by Western supply tanks and armored vehicles. The official also said the fighting appeared to be the main thrust in Kyiv's counterattack to retake territory occupied by Russia. Russian Defense Minister Sergei Shoigu said in a statement the same day that Russian forces had repelled the Ukrainian attempts. Kyiv has not responded to Moscow's claims. Over in the U.S., the Justice Department has lodged federal criminal charges against former President Donald Trump for mishandling classified documents after he left the White House. This is Mr. Trump's second indictment, but the first ever federal indictment of a former president in the United States. Chung Eun-ju has the details.
Former U.S. President Donald Trump has been indicted on 7 counts over his retention of national security documents. This marks the first time in U.S. history for a former president to face federal charges. The Justice Department on Thursday took the legally and politically momentous step of filing federal criminal charges against former President Trump, accusing him of mishandling classified documents he kept upon leaving office and then obstructing the government's efforts to reclaim them. His attorney Jim Trusty said on CNN this Thursday that Mr. Trump is facing a charge under the Espionage Act. The charges against him also include obstruction of justice, destruction or falsification of records, conspiracy, and false statements. He later confirmed on his social media platform that he had been indicted, saying that he had been informed by what he called the corrupt Biden administration. Mr. Trump, who is the front-runner for the 2024 Republican presidential nomination, said he has been summoned to appear in federal court in Miami on Tuesday at 3 p.m. In a video he released later on Truth Social, the social media platform founded by Trump Media and Technology Group, declared that he is an innocent man. The federal indictment filed by the Office of the Special Counsel Jack Smith is the second time that Trump has been criminally charged this year. In April, the Manhattan District Attorney charged him with 34 counts of falsifying business. He remains under investigation by Mr. Smith's office for his efforts to retain power after his election loss in 2020 and how those efforts led to the January 6th assault on the Capitol by a pro-Trump mob in 2021. For more than a year, the special counsel has been investigating whether the former president knowingly retained classified documents at his Mar-a-Lago resort in Florida after he left office in 2021 and took steps to conceal the materials after the Justice Department issued a subpoena for their return. Trump, however, has repeatedly characterized the investigation as a politically motivated witch hunt. Chung Eun-ju, Arirang News.
South Korea lost to Italy 2-1 in the Under-20 World Cup semi-finals taking place in Argentina. But this did not dampen the spirit of the cheering crowd here in Seoul in the early hours of this Friday. Our Choi Soo-young was among the crowd.
It was an intense match. South Korea took on Italy for a place in the U20 World Cup final on Friday 6 a.m. Korea time. The Korea Football Association hosted the cheering event at Gwanghwamun Sq with the Seoul government and the official supporters of the U20 national football team, the Red Devils. And despite the early hours, the love and enthusiasm of South Korean football fans for their team. Even though the semi-final kicked off at such an early time, fans didn't hesitate to show up to cheer South Korea's U20 team at the square. The U20 World Cup is held every 2 years, but it was cancelled in 2021 due to COVID-19. The square was filled with excitement for South Korea's second consecutive U20 World Cup semi-final and a dream that they could do better than in 2019 when they lost in the final.
I think we struggled during the first half, but it seems like we'll come back in the second half and win 2-0. I hope we can make history by achieving the first ever World Cup victory for South Korea.
I'm really excited to be here in Seoul. I think the energy in the crowd is really great, and this seems like a really fun way to celebrate soccer, the U20 World Cup.
Italy, boasting their strongest squad, opened the scoring in the first half, but South Korea were all square 9 minutes later thanks to a penalty kick scored by Lee Seung-won. The goal brought fans from their seats, shouting loudly and shaking the square with their celebration. Tension, however, rose as the game went on, Italy having much of the possession. Then, with only 4 minutes remaining, Korean hearts were broken when the Italians took the lead and ultimately won the game 2-1. After the match, most of the fans tried to cheer the young Taeguk Warriors to give them a boost.
It was impressive to see our players. I was so proud and the support from the fans were fervent. Though it is disappointing, there's still the 3rd, 4th place playoff, so I hope they gather their strength again.
Officials said as over 1,000 people gathered, the facilities were well equipped to ensure safety. Although South Korea lost the game, there is no doubt they'll be hopeful for new opportunities that lies ahead of them. Choi Soo-hyung, Arirang News.
It's Friday, and that means it's time for our weekly arts and culture segment. We have our culture correspondent Song Yujin in the studio with us. Welcome, Yujin.
Good evening, Jungmin.
What do you have for us today?
Well, so Jungmin, there is a very big and meaningful day coming up, especially for K-pop fans next week. And K-pop sensation superstars BTS will be celebrating their 10-year anniversary next Tuesday, which is June 13th. And over the span of the past decade, we've really seen BTS grow phenomenally, sweeping awards, topping charts, and even speaking at the United Nations. But what really makes their journey more meaningful and stand out is that their journey was not always been plain sailing. There were challenges, there were ups and downs. So for this week, ahead of their 10-year anniversary, I looked back on the group's decade-long history and uncovered what's behind their unparalleled success.
Everybody, 둘, 셋, 팍! 다! 안녕하세요, 방탄소년단입니다. Yeah, 같이 인사 좀 부탁드립니다.
This appearance on Arirang TV was just 3 months after their debut, but fast forward almost a decade. And BTS has blossomed into a 5-time Grammy nominee, Times Entertainer of the Year, music chart toppers, and the most followed music group on Instagram. But BTS's success didn't happen overnight. When the boys released their debut track, No More Dream, in 2013, they weren't signed with one of the big 3 record companies in Korea, known for producing hit K-pop groups since the 90s. Their rebellious bad boy looks and aggressive hip-hop music presented a stark contrast to the clean-cut, romance-singing boy groups K-pop fans were accustomed to. It was actually social media that first rose the boys to stardom.
Even before their debut, they were talking with their fans. They always showed insight into who they are. They always had their, nowadays we see Jungkook going on a live stream with 10 million people, and back then they were doing it for just a few people on YouTube. But it's always been that way.
This not only expanded BTS's reach, but also fostered a deep connection with their fans, the ARMY. But success wouldn't have lasted long without good music. Unlike most K-pop songs written by renowned composers, BTS members actively contributed as songwriters and producers.
But you become a voice of a generation because you really put yourself out there, you put music out there that is very both personal and relatable. Like that's what makes a great pop song or a great, popular hit. So every person can listen to it and feel, oh, I feel that way. And
the song Love Myself really empowered me. I had a difficult time at work back then, and the song gave me a lot of comfort.
Equally important is the fact that all 7 members have remained together until now.
Unlike many K-pop groups that pursue unique projects, BTS has always worked together other than releasing solo work. This unity and strength are what define BTS.
Their songs and dances are really cool, and it's just great to see the strong bond between the members.
All this paved the way for other K-pop acts to shine on the global stage.
BTS has brought K-pop into the mainstream. K-pop used to be a niche music loved by enthusiasts, but it's now become a universal genre enjoyed worldwide like Latin or British pop.
No one could have predicted the immense scale of BTS's success 10 years ago. Although they're currently taking time off as a group, who knows what extraordinary accomplishments they'll achieve in the next 10 years.
What a decade it's been, Yoon.
Right.
And I heard the boys gave a surprise present for their fans' army.
It was indeed a big present, especially for the fans who are waiting for BTS as a group, as they're currently taking a hiatus as a group, as I mentioned in my report. So they just released their latest digital single titled Take Two just a few hours ago on 1 p.m. Korea time. And the title signifies that BTS as a group is now moving on to their second chapter as a career after wrapping up their first decade-long chapter. And according to their management agency HYBE, this was kind of like a heartfelt tribute to all the armies around the world who've been showing unwavering support for BTS over the past 10 years. And to talk a bit more about the song, member Suga took part in the overall production process, while leader RM and another member J-Hope took part in the songwriting process. So really meaningful.
Can't wait to hear. And I've also heard there are some more exciting events lined up for next week.
Well, you're definitely right. So Seoul City and HYBE have teamed up for this year's BTS Festa. So this annual event always takes place on June 13th to really celebrate BTS's debut with armies from all around the world. And this year's edition will be reaching unprecedented heights, as is their big 10-year anniversary. So to first start off from Monday, which is June 12th, 8 key landmarks across Seoul, which is the Sebisom Island, the Dongdaemun Design Plaza, Namsan Tower, and also the World Cup Bridge, they'll all be lit up in purple, which is the color that represents BTS. And also the grand finale, which is the main event, it will take place at the Yeouido Hangang Park next Saturday, which is June 17th. And what you can expect a lot of BTS-themed booths, games, and also a fireworks show to celebrate their 10-year anniversary. And what also makes this event really exciting is that BTS leader RM will be taking part in the event himself. So I think it's definitely worth checking out if you're a K-pop fan or if you're an ARMY.
By the way, love your purple jacket.
That's the reason why I picked this out today.
Yep. Thanks, Yoon.
Thank you.
Showers will continue into the weekend for inland regions along with the summer heat. Amid the hot conditions, rain will be persistent for central regions for the entire weekend, while maximum temperatures will hover around 27 to 28 degrees Celsius in Seoul. Increased humidity levels will make conditions feel higher than the actual readings. As for the amount of rainfall, the Seoul metropolitan area and Gangwon-do provinces will see up to 60 millimeters. The surrounding regions, including Gangwon-do and Jeollabuk-do provinces, can expect 5 to 40. Unstable atmospheric conditions may produce thunder and lightning at times. And for southern parts of the country, where relatively fewer showers are in the forecast, UV rays will be very strong. For those across the region, make sure to wear your sun protective items. Tomorrow, Seoul, Gwangju, and Busan will be starting off at 19 degrees. Daytime conditions will be stuffy and hot for most regions. Highs in Seoul will get up to 28 degrees. Daejeon and Gwangju 30, Busan will be reaching 26 degrees. And scattered outbreaks of rainfall will continue for central regions until early next week. That's all for now, and here are the weather conditions around the world.
That is News Center for tonight. Thank you for watching. A panel session coming up.